Hi, and welcome to Sparkles of Arizona. So, who gets up at 7 a.m. to go to the zoo? People who live in Phoenix, Arizona. And if you're a member of the Phoenix Zoo, they actually open at 6 o'clock for you. So, when you're walking in, you walk across this bridge, and it's pretty cool. They have all these different bricks and these little glass handprints that people have. The zoo has raised money by getting donations from people all around the world that want to support the zoo. This particular day, they had some animal ambassadors that greeted you when you walked in. There was an owl and a constrictor. So it's kind of cool. The zoo handlers have them there to give you information on these creatures and also so you can get up close and get some photos and find out more about them. And when you do walk into the area, there is Stingray Bay, which you can pay to pet and feed stingrays. They have cool penny collectibles, but this one was all sun faded, so you couldn't even see what the designs were. So this is the front little plaza area. When you walk in, it has the Arizona Trail. It has a map that you will need to take a picture of or download before you start your daily activities here, because they do not have paper maps anymore. So then you can decide. There's a few different routes that you can take to whichever trail you want to start on at the zoo. And if you don't really want to walk, or you don't want to walk the whole time you're there, there are also a couple of options that you can choose from if you want to pay to ride around the zoo. One of them is Scooter Pals, which costs $5 to activate and 35 cents a minute after that. So $21 an hour to use one of those. Or you can get tickets for the Safari Cruiser, which take you around to, I believe, the 4 major trails in the zoo. And also the driver will give you information and history on the zoo while you're riding around and show you any animals that are up close enough to the Safari Cruiser for you to see. So looking at the map, I decided to go back to the beginning. Oh, it is also nice that they have signs that have arrows that point you towards the animals. So I decided to go back to the Arizona Trail. This is Arizona after all. And when you walk in, it's a little area that has some ducks and some birds in a little pond here. And then there's some turkeys. And then there are some sections inside because they need to keep it cooler for people. They kind of make it look like caves when you walk in. There's little terrariums that have little tanks that have reptiles in them. So you're going to see snakes and lizards and toads. And sometimes they're up close where you can see them, and sometimes they're in the back corner or up on the top of one of their little perches or little pieces of wood that they have in there, their substrate to kind of hide under. But these guys were all up front, so that was kind of cool. The eagles that they have on display right now, they had the bald eagles, so that was pretty amazing to see. And they were up pretty close. In this little thing, coyote, we were looking for the coyote. And I was just standing right above him, and he couldn't care less. He was just like doing his thing. So that was kind of cool to get a nice shot of the coyote. And they had, let's see, there's another one just kind of walking around. So some of them, the Phoenix Zoo does have a lot of birds. Now, there's going to be all kinds. This was a California Condor. So you could actually stand in front of a poster to see what your arm span looked like compared to theirs. They have a new section called Predator Passage, which they try to make the enclosures for some of the bigger animals like the lions closer so people could see. Oh, there's Governor Hunt's pyramid, which the first governor of Arizona and his family are buried in that pyramid up on the hill there at Papago Park. And so they had this new structure, and you can climb up the tower using this stairway here, or on the other side there is a ramp for strollers and wheelchairs. And then once you're up at the top, you can have a beautiful view of the zoo grounds, and you can kind of go all the way around, and then you'll see there's the Governor Hunt's pyramid again, and Papago Park on the zoo side. So it's pretty interesting. The animals, you're going to see a lot of animals that are native to deserts, obviously, to be able to live outside in Phoenix. Um, a lot of the cats and the other animals are pacing this time of the morning because I believe they get their breakfast sometime between 6 and 7, which is, it kind of helps the people who are here, the visitors to the zoo, to see the animals. Once they get their food, they can watch them eat, and they're a little bit more active. So they have this desert live, the desert trail, and it goes around up to try to see the bighorn sheep. So we're going to walk along here. A lot of the paths are dirt. This is kind of a fine gravel, but it's pretty flat, so it's not so bad for pushing strollers or if you had a wheelchair. Oh, and they have water fountains, which are really important. I can't believe how many people I saw this day that did not have water bottles. Even if there are water fountains in Arizona, you should almost always have a water bottle on your person if you're doing outdoor activities at all times. It's just important. So they do have some places that did have paths that were paved. They do tell you to stay on the paths because these rocks can tumble down. There are also cacti that will stick to you. More water fountains, which are good if you need that. There was a statue of the bighorn sheep, but I didn't actually see any bighorn sheep this particular day. The zoo does have a lot of life-size animal statues. I don't know if they're bronze statues or just life-size statues that they have outside of the exhibits that you can take pictures with, which are really kind of cool. You can almost make like a scavenger hunt game out of how many statues that you can take pictures with at the exhibits. So you have a lot of cacti. Here's another statue of the bighorn sheep. They also had a viewfinder, like a telescope that you could use here to try to find them, and it didn't cost anything. And then there's another picture of Governor Hunt's pyramid. They also had some more collectible pennies and a photo booth that you could pay to get photos done. Here's some more birds. The Phoenix Zoo has a lot of birds, all kinds of birds. Big birds, little birds, wild birds, birds on display, birds that are just, hanging out, getting extra food that the animals leave behind. Lots of birds. They had tortoise. They do have, in the structures, they try and fix stuff up for children to be able, like a step stool or a little something so you don't have to hold your children over like a fence and drop them in possibly to an exhibit. They do have it to where they have it at heights, levels, different size people can see into the exhibits and see the animals when they're active. So we have a lot of tortoises, and tortoises are amazing. I mean, they can live over 100 years old. Here we have some porcupines that are kind of clamoring by their door looking for their breakfast. So that was kind of fun to see them. Yeah. And then the different sections of the zoo, they do have a few. This map is in Spanish. It's on the side, like on the African side. And then they do have a few different cafes. They're not necessarily open every day of the week or at all times during the zoo hours, but there are restrooms there that are open. So if you need restrooms in different parts of the zoo, that's there. There are a lot of picnic tables. You can actually, obviously you can support the zoo if you have extra funds to buy food there, which is kind of pricey. Oh, little bunny rabbit. They do sell like ices and stuff. That's what we always look for at the zoo. Ooh, the rhino. But you can bring your own picnic lunch. So you can pack your own lunch. They do have, just read the restrictions before you come. Obviously no glass bottles, no alcohol, stuff like that. But you can bring sandwiches or, whatever and eat there. There are places that are no ride zones for the little scooter buddies. This is the baboon section. And once again, they're trying to fix their habitats here so that is a nice habitat for the animal and at the same time for humans, I guess, to be able to view them better. I don't know, personally, I kind of like the Where's Waldo, try to find the animal in their habitat, but I can understand too when people come and you're spending money and you want to see animals that they're right up close to you to where you can see them. This guy was the Maine wolf, which looks like they called him the stilted fox because he looks like a fox that's on stilts with super long legs, but he was very graceful and he was walking around, so it was nice to see this beautiful animal. And then, like I said, a lot of the bigger cats that I saw during my visit were kind of just resting and conserving their energy for later in the warm day. And then like the signs really help. Here's another statue of a bucking bronco. The Crossroads Cafe was the only place that had a penny machine that actually you could see what the designs look like. What's really nice about this zoo is even though you're in the middle of Phoenix, sometimes it just looks very tropical. There are little lakes and ponds all over, and it just doesn't feel like you're in the middle of the desert. Here's the otter. I'm not really sure where his friend was today. Usually there's a couple of them in there, but he just got that little egg thing back there. It looks like a wiffle ball, and it has his treats inside, or his breakfast. He's got little fish, I believe, in there, and he just got one out, and he's gonna shake off and chew it up there. So it's fun when they put them in put their food in different ways, not just in a bowl, so that you can watch them play and interact. And the flamingos, super cute. They had some flamingo chicks. You can see them. They're not tiny, but they're smaller than the other ones, and they're like gray and fluffy. So they have two different places where they have flamingos. This is one of the main places. I don't even know if there are different flamingos in different places. There probably are. I wasn't paying attention. But they also have camel rides where you can pay to ride a camel, and then they'll take your photo, and then you can pay to have your photo of you riding the camel. I wasn't going to ride, so I really don't even know how much it is. You can check their website. They'll show you prices. Oh, my favorite place at the zoo is the forest of Uco. This was built like back in 2008, I believe, and it's like a tropical forest where they have the spectacle bears, they have macaws, they have misting systems. Once again, so it feels like you're not in the middle of the Phoenix desert. Here we have some monkeys who have little itches, which makes me want to scratch. And then more birds, lots of birds at the Phoenix Zoo. So, spectacle bear. When they first put this exhibit in, it was always hard to see them. Like I hardly ever saw them when we went. And we were members for a long time. But now, I mean, they seem to be, comfortable in their little enclosure, and they're walking all around. And then this is still part of the forest of Uco here, where they have bamboo and palm trees. And it just feels like you're in a Central American or South American kind of foresty area. And here's like a little fountain when you're exiting the forest of Uco. And then this little path right here will lead you to the back side of Harmony Farm, which you can get in on the other side through the children's trail as well. But this side, you go down a little bridge. You do have to be careful if you're with strollers or wheelchairs. A lot of the walking areas are kind of steep or hilly, so you do want to kind of watch that. Once you're in Harmony Farm, they do have like a little garden area with edible vegetables and stuff that they've grown. They have this little section here where they show how they try and help pollinators and bees. They do have farm animals because it is Harmony Farm, so there are like cows and horses. There's a donkey that lives on the other side of the farm. And here we have the zookeepers. They're keeping their enclosures clean and giving them their breakfast. And they have the little goats. And they do have a petting zoo. I didn't go in the petting zoo, and I try not to videotape kids. So, goats, but children that aren't mine. So the little goats, they do have a little, also for composting, they have this worm section where you can dig up earthworms, which they, for some reason, have the shovels out, and I didn't feel like sticking my hands in there, so no pictures of worms today, sorry. These two goats, which were eating out of their trees, which was kind of fun to watch. And then out of Harmony Farm, we'll take you to the Children's Trail, which has this little park area where you can play on this climby rope thing. No, we don't have spiders that big in Arizona. And then this guy, which is a saguaro cactus slide. So you can actually climb up inside this slide and slide down like you're coming out of a saguaro cactus. Also good for pictures when you have little ones to take pictures of. Then we have back here the Wallaby exhibit, which was also very, very popular when it first opened. It's kind of quiet back here this particular day. And then they have a statue of a wallaby. You can climb inside the little pouch there, or have your child climb inside the little pouch there to see how they look. And then sometimes there's exhibits that maybe the animal is on vacation because it's too hot for them, or they're getting moved to someplace else, and it'll be full of just regular old wildlife. So here we have some little bunny rabbits that just decided, there's nobody in here that's gonna eat them. The zoo also kind of watches certain, I know like with the flamingos, they have certain special safety fences around that keep them from wild coyotes or animals that might come down from Papago Park to eat zoo animals. Here's some more life-size statues that your kids can take pictures, or anybody. I mean, like I said, if you can make it into a scavenger hunt where you can try and get as many pictures of you next to all the zoo statues. This is like a little tiny butterfly garden. If you're a taller adult, you would have to kind of stoop down to get inside, but it's fun for kids to go into these little areas. There's also in the children's trail some little areas where kids can go in, or adults, but you really have to squeeze, where you kind of go underneath a little rock kind of feature, and there's like little mice or something inside of a little container inside their little habitat. And then here's some black swans doing swan things in their little swan pond. They have like a little waterfall, and they're really pretty. Like I said, there's a lot of birds, so if you really, also another scavenger hunt you can go on to see how many birds you can see at the Phoenix Zoo, because you can see a lot both that are on display and that are just wild birds that take advantage of free food when they can get it. And here we have monkeys, and then we have some more birds who are actually pretty loud when they're squawking, but the people that were standing around their cage were actually talking louder than the birds were squawking, so I do have them on camera. Coming down from the children's trail, you have areas over here where you can rent for parties, for birthday parties for kids, or if you have something like an office party. The Siamang Monkey Island here is a special, that is their habitat, that is their island. These monkeys live right there on the island. They don't cross the water. I guess they don't swim, or maybe they're conditioned not to. And here you can hear all the birds in the background, and you can watch this little guy. He's a morning person, or a morning monkey, I guess, but his friends are not really having it. He's swinging all around, and they're just kind of watching him like, okay. But you do get a lot of, I'm going to turn that off for a minute, but in a minute I'm going to turn it back on so you can see how loud these guys get once they're all up and awake. You can hear them on the other side of the zoo. They basically, once he got all of his friends up from his swinging antics, and they climbed up the tallest palm tree. And let me tell you, they definitely brought the crowd, because every human wanted to know what in the world these monkeys were honking and howling at. But you can hear them echo on the other side of the zoo. You can hear them when you walk in the entrance. They're so loud. They're just up there. I don't know if they do this, how many times a day they do this, or it's just good morning to everybody. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the whole day, was just listening to those guys scream. Sometimes you just want to do that. They do have this stage area where they have a couple of times during the day where they have animal ambassadors also come out, and they have the speaker there who tells you about the animals, and then the handlers who walk around, sometimes a little bit closer to the public in the stands, but mostly birds that they also showed there. Another thing that you could do, even though the zoo is like right next to the Desert Botanical Gardens, and the zoo's botanical offerings are not necessarily native, is go on a scavenger hunt and see how many different kinds of flowers you can take pictures of. The zoo is full of so many different kinds of flowers. And then plus, I just love like when I see bees and stuff too. But there were just every color you can imagine: pink, purple, orange, white. There were even brown flowers, red flowers, orange, just every color of flower. Then they had all kinds of weird, different kinds of cacti. So also, here's another odd, like Dr. Seuss looking flower. Honeysuckles. So you definitely want to keep an eye out for not just the zoo animals that are on exhibit, but also just wildlife. This is a Yakulla Caverns, which is like a splash pad. It wasn't open at this particular time. And then Monkey Village, where you can kind of see monkeys up close. They're kind of like just swinging above your head between the trees, which are kind of fun to watch. Monkeys are always entertaining. And then you're wondering, why does the Phoenix Zoo have a giant pelican statue? Well, because they have giant pelicans in a lake, in one of the lakes here. These guys, they started videotaping them because they look cool, but they're chasing the little duckling. It was like a teenage duckling, I guess. I couldn't watch anymore because they didn't look like they wanted to play with him. They looked like they wanted to eat him. Then we have the Isle of Tiger, um, or so we have the tigers here who are also already pacing for their breakfast, or like his friend, conserving some energy for later in the day. So, but once again, they have their exhibits here where they used to have the tiger like across in an exhibit where you'd have to see him on a tree or something, which I kind of liked, but the windows, I guess, are good for a lot of people. Here's the Land of the Dragons where we have some Komodo dragons, and there's a baby croc or a little crocodile, and iguana maybe. And then this guy, he was pretty active. A lot of times when you go to see reptiles anywhere that I've ever been, they're not usually very active. A lot of times they're just kind of curled up in a corner under a log or under a heat lamp. But this guy, he was just walking all around. So he was definitely entertaining the crowd just by walking around his enclosure. Then they have the orangutan area, which always was one of my favorites because the orangutans usually just play with each other. There's another statue that you can take a picture with. But they were cleaning one of the enclosures, and then this other enclosure, this guy, he was just like not having it. He had his head covered, which I can understand. It was already like 85 degrees at 8 o'clock in the morning. They have a tropical flights, which is an aviary across from the orangutans, which I didn't need to see any more birds, so I just skipped that. They have a leaping lagoon, which is also a little splash pad. Their carousel, their merry-go-round they're getting a new one, so that one wasn't there. For some reason, the giraffes weren't out. I'm not sure why, but you can see when they are out, they have a lot of feeding options where you can see them eat up close, or you can actually pay to feed them. Here's some ducks, a little duck couple that were on a date here at the snack area. And then the Phoenix Zoo has strategically placed the exit through their Plaza marketplace. So while you're leaving, you can walk through their gift shop and find something. I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to find anything cheaper than the 51-cent collectible pennies. So bring some quarters and some shiny pennies if you want to get those. And here you can buy t-shirts and shoes and water bottles and giant statues, hats, pretty much anything you can imagine. Coffee cups, shot glasses. These guys were plush made from recycled materials. I didn't read the little tag exactly what they're made from, and everything, of course, goes to support the Phoenix Zoo. These are some lollipops with some animals on them and stickers, which were like $5. But once again, it's to support the zoo and places like this. It's not just a zoo just to see animals in cages or behind windows. These guys do conservation. They do teaching so that we can have these animals and all the animals around the world for longer in our world because, they're dying off because we're taking their habitats, and there's poachers that think, animals have magical parts that we have to sell on the black market. But so that was the Phoenix Zoo. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. If you can, please subscribe and like this video. Have a great day.